Degreasing pizzas. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and it's an extremely effective method. All you need is a pizza, although this trick does work with many other things, such as hamburgers, for example. But I don't eat meat. For when I get multiple pizzas, things are a little different. The first step, of course, is, well, I need to move a few things out of the way a little bit. Those are my logs that I use. Wow. Look at all that grease on there. Oh my goodness. It ended up on my fingers. So, what you obviously need for any degreasing is some way of soaking up the grease. And paper towels do work very well for that. First, I'm going to clean this mess up here. Wow. I've never had this happen before. A little bit of grease. Not all that much though. But inside this delicious box, oh wait, the box don't taste anything worthwhile. But inside the box is a delicious pizza. But if you notice closely, notice all the glittering and glint and whatnot. I don't know if you can see it on my camera setup that I got here, but it actually glows. Reflections from the lights. So for what I need for this, first thing I do is I need 4 of the select-a-size type. Noticing the ratio here. I fold it in half so that way it's just a little bit bigger one. The whole size versions and standard ones also work fine. All I do is I put the paper towel kind of in a corner like so, and I just start pressing. Look at this already, and I hardly even done anything. But on the other side, that's another story. So I just do some somewhat soft padding, kind of a medium-low. For best degreasing, you better wait for it to cool down a little bit, because otherwise you risk it sticking to the paper towel, the cheese that is, which is not really a fun thing to be having happen. So, this is just one. Look at all that. That is just one. Beyond that, I just use pairs like this, folded in half of course, and I get the rest of the parts. And I repeat the process. Again, a lot of grease. This will take some time. Just so you know, it's really fast at the beginning, but over time it slows down. It kind of follows like a square root curve in a way. So if you put 4 times more effort into it, you will get twice the amount of grease. Or there'll be like half the grease, basically, or something like that. That's the kind of ratio it is. Maybe inverse square law. In a sense. Over there, got basically about the same thing. Yes, you'll soak up some of the sauce as well, but you get more than just the sauce. You primarily get grease, but you also get, maybe on an odd occasion, you'll get some of the cheese soaked up. There's also quite a bit of water mixed in. Surprising that food's actually got a lot of water in it. And notice how I'm going over the same area that I did on the first one. Notice how all that grease isn't really showing up on here either. And it's not just Domino's pizza that's got all this grease. It's pretty much every pizza there is. I just like Domino's because, one, they have that huge $7.99 special, large 3 topping for only $7.99, which is on par with Walmart's kind of pricing, which is what my normal frozen pizzas are. There will be separate videos for those, by the way, because they use different methods. But this is what I do for the larger ordered pizzas. Not as much as the first one, but there's still quite a bit. As you can tell here, there's still quite a bit. Still kind of about the same story. Sometimes you will get little pieces of sauce poking through from all the pressure you're putting on. And do put pressure on it, a medium amount. And of course, as it gets on later into the process, that'll increase, but don't get too heavy and too carried away with it. Otherwise, you'll end up with not a pizza, but a pancake pizza instead. That's pancake and pizza together in one. Get it? Yep, still getting quite a bit. So what are these other ones for? That will come for a little later on in the process. But for now, I need to get stage 1 finished for all of these pizzas. Every single one of them, one after the other, before I even eat at all. It's best to get it while it's still warm, because the effectiveness is much stronger when it's warm. So I will continue on with this. I'll fast forward at a pretty modest frame rate, time-lapse multiplier, and it'll just take off from there, since this is going to take a long time. Now, notice the difference? Not really all that much left, but I still go on farther, much further. Here's the time lapse. Why did I only get just 2 then? Well, after 3 or 4 runs, maybe 2 at the early end, you don't really soak up all that much grease, as you're kind of getting a hint of. So, I only do 1 to make it a little more efficient on materials. So, I'll just keep on going along. I will continue until I believe that this pizza is done with degreasing. It will take a while, so I'll use a little bit faster time lapse. In case you're wondering, look how little there is being soaked up. And I can still see little bits here and there, but some areas are especially bad. One thing I do, especially when I'm nearing the end, is I take parts of the paper towel that are not used and I focus on some of the worst looking areas. Just look around randomly like this and note where all the lighting reflections are, where you can see the oddly bright looking areas. And then from there, I need to really just focus on those. Some areas are going to be especially bad. Others are going to be hardly worth it. But even then, even after all this, I am still soaking up grease. And quite a bit of it. Remember, this applies to all ordered pizzas. Sometimes when I do soak up some cheese, I just take off little bits like this. It does happen, but it's kind of still at least spares parts of it at least. Or big chunks of sauce, I do get that on occasion. Yeah, as you can tell, it's a lot greasier than what it's been. But that's because I'm focusing on the worst looking areas. Like right over here is pretty bad. And I need another one, so if I keep needing new ones, I do that. And so I don't wipe the stuff all over my clothes and whatnot. I wipe it on that one. That's what this oddball is for. It's for wiping my hands on. Especially when they get excessively greasy. And remember, do make sure you get the edges as well. Case in point, I can see some right there. Check the whole thing. Not too much, but that's kind of expected with the edges. You won't be getting too much out of it. Well, got a lot of sauce here. What else, if anything? Yep, the same area over here, still greasy. Those areas I tend to call the grease lands, grease buckets and whatnot, because I tend to soak up a lot, but I'm also soaking up sauce too, so I got to be a little careful, not get too carried away. And I think this pizza is pretty much as good as it's going to get, so the next step then is a little bit different. This is where I put a paper towels over the pizza, much like what I was doing early on. And I start doing what I was just doing first thing. But this time, I do not take the paper towel off. Why? This way, when I return to the pizza, notice how there's this one here, 2, 3, 4 pizzas. This is a medium. Why a medium? It's the Piece of the Pie Rewards freebie. So, claim it. Might as well put it to some use. Of course, you don't have to get all of it covered, but do get a good chunk of it at least, as much as you can. And when you're done, you just simply close the box, set the pizza aside. Of course, this thing's catching on something, but I'll just set it aside for now. And next pizza, I repeat the process right from the beginning. I will use a very fast time lapse for this because this is going to take quite a long time. As you can tell, look at all that right away. And that's how long it takes to process one full pizza. Yep, more cheddar. This one's my cheddar heavy one. I just mix and match the cheeses that I use. So I will skip ahead, no time lapse, to the next stage. Stage 2 is processed a little differently than before. It's still a lot of degreasing, but I still get quite a bit of grease with this method. But it's also when I first start eating. Remember this roll of paper towels that I've been ignoring? Well, now I need them. They're a little different size as well. They're El Cheapo leftovers that I had from my Fargo case, and what a disaster that place was for me. That aside, let's see. All I got to do is pick a slice. Which slice do I want to have? You might be noticing, what is this all about? Well, sometimes pieces do break off. So, let's see. I'll pick a slice, RNG if I have to, random number generator. I grab the slice. I don't eat it right away. Instead, I put it on here. Of course, I got this thing in the wrong orientation. Dot, dot, dot. Dot with a vertical line attachment on that particular one. And of course, I could see some grease on the bottom here. So for that, I grab one of these, like so, and I put it on it like so. This also kind of gets some of the grease on the bottom. Yes, I'm having my double cheddar, double normal cheese one first. So what about this? I'll get to that. Not too much, but it does help at least. Freezer just turned on. Some stuff will kind of go over the edge like that. I just scoop it up and eat it. And then, it's like a little puzzle here, figuring out how to best optimize the space that's available. I repeat the process. If needed, put this to use. Keep it in the same orientation and you can optimize its use. There may be a little overlap, but that's fine. Sharp spot there. Yeah, kind of sharp and pointy, like spikes. And an itch. Gotta love itches. This one's completely full, so I can get rid of that. But there's still more to stage 2 than just this. Pick it up, I put it on the side like this. This gets the edges or sides a little better. And then of course I just go like so. Well, what do you know? Look at all that extra grease that I soaked up. That didn't get through on stage 1. That's why I have multiple stages. Once stage 1 is done, you don't have to do it again. And when you do use stage 1, by the way, do try to get into the cracks here as well, which does end up soaking up a little bit extra. Basically just follow along the rim area here. You're not after perfection, you're never going to get all of the grease gone, but you can at least get a sizable chunk of it. So, Just dab it down like so, and when you're pretty much about ready, you just eat it. And when you're done with this slice, you just go back to stage 2 and repeat from the beginning. That's pretty much all there is to it. And if you see an exceptionally greasy area, feel free to do the usual again. Oh, and by the way, you remember this piece, right? What do you do with it? Well, when you have open space on your dual paper towels, you just degrease it like this and you eat it. When each one of those is used up, you just toss it in the trash, and when this one gets full, you toss it in the trash, and you replenish as necessary. And another thing to consider is, you're probably wondering why the cheese is sticking to it like crazy or something like that. Well, that's probably because you're using the wrong degreasing medium. For that, you need something that is strong and sturdy. You can do a basic strength test. Just simply go along like a corner like here, like a little edge, and you just do a tear. This doesn't take too much force to get a little tear in there. So that means these aren't very strong, but they are doable. On the other hand, these, using the same kind of position, wow, it takes a lot more force. That one didn't take much. So, well, basically the stronger it is, the better. When you do that tear test like that. That's how you know how strong something is. And when you know when you have something strong like that, then, well, it would be perfectly suitable for degreasing. If, however, it takes very little force to get it to tear like that, then it's not worth degreasing because the cheese and whatnot's all going to stick. Also, do not start degreasing when the pizza is still pretty much just fresh out of the oven. Wait about 5 minutes before you start, so that way at least it kind of gets cooled off a bit so it doesn't stick anywhere near as intensely. This video was created by Ulillillia. This delicious pizza was created by Domino's. Thank you for watching.